We talked about freedom and faithfulness. Unless you get free not to be faithful, you'll never be faithful. That's the secret that nobody ever tells you, because Christian leaders, and I include myself, are scared that you're going to take advantage of it. But until you know that you're free, no matter what, you never get faithful. And then the thought of Jesus and laughter going together is a cool thought, isn't it? I love being with real Christians, not because they are so spiritual, not because they can quote more verses than anybody else, not because they pray nice prayers, but because they laugh a lot. And in the laughter of the redeemed is the presence of the Redeemer. In the laughter of the redeemed is the presence of the Redeemer. We then last night talked about the surprise of faithfulness. I'm going to pray for you as I drive away from this place after we finish, that you get really surprised, that you, not by your sin, you knew about that, but that God's going to let you see the lives you touched when you didn't know it, the change that took place in your church and you didn't know you had a part in it, the little kid who saw Jesus in you, the marriage that said, we're going to try again because of you. I'm going to pray that you get surprised, not by your sin, you know about that, but surprised by the faithfulness that God has promised to give. And that was pretty much it. I mean, I'm going to read you some verses and I'm going to talk about them a little bit. But if you got what I just said, you got the message. And I believe it's biblical, and don't let anybody tell you different. There's a church in our hometown in Orlando, and they took me on as a cause. They really did. Every time I'd go someplace, they'd send 2 or 3 fairly young people to say really bad things about me and to argue with me. The owner of one of the bookstores in our town called up and said, you ought to come and look. There's a track against you in every one of your books. That pastor's in jail, by the way. So don't mess with me, okay? God's faithfulness, always and in every place, every time, and we're not. And He loves us anyway. So if you want to take a nap during this final service, you've gotten it. I'm going to repeat myself in a different way, but I'm still going to repeat myself. If you're wondering what this is all about, trust God and go out and play. Trust God and go out and play. How can you do that? Well, listen to what God has to say. This is Matthew 11:28 through 29. Come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. 2 Corinthians 12:9 through 10. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong. And then Philippians 1:6, well, maybe a couple more. And I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. And then 1 John 3:2, beloved, we are God's children now, and what we will be has not yet appeared. But we know that when he appears, we shall be like him, because we will see him as he is. Oh, I can live on that for just a long, long time. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I get up early. I'd like to say it's my spirituality, but I think it's my sin. It takes a long time, if you're me, to confess. And I want to do it before I have to look at people in the face. And so I get up at 4:30 most mornings. And sometimes I wake up in the shower and don't remember how I got there. And on this particular morning, I woke up quicker than usual because there was no hot water. In fact, it was freezing, and I died. And I got through the shower and out of it quickly. And as soon as it was 9 o'clock, I went on the internet and got a list of plumbers and began to call them. I opened with, I took a cold shower this morning, and I need somebody to fix it. And if you can't help me, I'm going to the next plumber. And by the time I got to the third one, this lady said, I've been there. Our guy will be over there this afternoon. And he came, and he fixed it. And I had a great shower the next morning. One of my heroes is Donald Gray Barnhouse. And he used to say that all of life illustrates Bible doctrine. It really does. All of life illustrates Bible doctrine. So you got to be aware of what's happening to you, because that's an illustration of what God is doing in your life. Even a cold shower. I've been thinking about a cold shower and faithfulness. Let me tell you 2 or 3 things that I want you to remember when you go home. In both cold showers and faithfulness, don't try to fix something you can't fix. I was on an airplane one time. I was going to a Key Life board meeting in Canada, Key Life Canada board meeting. And 6 months before, there had been a crash, and everybody was killed in the airplane on the route I was taking through Pittsburgh. And we went through turbulence. Now I'm already scared before I get on an airplane. I've never put my weight on an airplane, ever. And I was not happy with the turbulence. When it got worse and worse, I repented of every sin I could think of. I pled for mercy. I believe in dying grace. When it's your time to die, you'll have peace. And the only comfort to me on this particular flight is that I was scared spitless. And I knew I wasn't going to die, or I hoped dying grace was a proper biblical doctrine. You know what was irritating on that flight? This lady who was sitting next to me slept during the whole thing. And that's not the worst part. She snored during the whole. So finally we landed safely, and she woke up. And I felt like I ought to say something. I said, "Lady, we almost died." She looked at me funny, and I said, "And you ought not sleep through your own death, okay?" And you know what she said to me? She said, "I can't fly this plane." And I went, "Hadn't thought about that." If you can't fly the plane, don't try. If you can't fix the shower, don't try. If you can't fix you, give it up. I've been there. I remember I've been doing this a long time. And I told Jesus I wouldn't do it for anybody but him, and that's true. I remember my first church on Cape Cod, picturesque postcard church. White, overlooked the bay, wonderful place to begin, and I thought, so fortunate to be here. And this is a great job. All I have to do is talk a few minutes on Sunday morning, and I can play golf and swim the rest of the week. And then Jesus came and screwed it up for me, and I'm never forgiven him for it. But I loved being on that and being the pastor of those people, even when I wasn't close to Jesus. But do you know what I remember thinking early on? I was a student in a seminary, and I was just beginning to learn stuff that I was supposed to do. And I remember thinking, I can't do this. Nobody can do this. This can't be done. This is crazy. What am I doing here? This is not going to work. And I've had that opinion every day of my life for 85 years. My friends from Asheville told me last night I lied about how old I was. I didn't appreciate it. I didn't mean to lie. It was not a lie. It was hope. When I told you I was 85 years, totally insecure, totally aware I can't pull this off, totally aware I can't fix me. I really thought I'd be better by now. I really did. I thought I would be more gifted than I am now. I thought I could fix more problems than I've been able to fix. But here I am, just as I was when I was a kid. And I said, I can't do this. Do you know what God is doing in your life? He's bringing you to the same place. He's bringing you to the end of yourself, your sin, your failure. The times you made a fool out of yourself were gifts from God when you know it, because they bring you to the point where you say, I can't do this. I just can't do that. So I've given up trying to fix cold showers and make myself faithful. But there's something else you ought to remember. Cold showers and faithfulness, when you can't do it, calls you to find somebody who can. I just want you to know that Jeff, the plumber who came, is now my best friend. I love that guy. He came in, I said, you're going to fix that cold shower or I'm not paying you. And he said, listen, mister, I'm going to fix it, okay? Tomorrow you'll have a hot shower and it's going to be fine. And he did. I found somebody who would fix it. You don't know the name John Longino. I'm going to tell you about him. He's a lawyer. I think he's in Europe right now. He has a yacht he gets on sometimes. And some 40 years ago, he was in a mess, and I pointed him to Jesus. I tried to correct his politics. He's this side of wacko liberal. I didn't fix that, but he did come to Christ, and it radically changed his life. Early in the days of Key Life, and for you that don't know what that is, it's a media ministry with which I'm associated. We had taken an 800 Key Life number, and it was given to a guy in Oklahoma, and then it was serviced with somebody else in Texas. And it was the way that listeners would contact us and order materials or make their comments or whatever. And these two guys in Oklahoma and Texas started fighting with each other. And one of them stole the number, and I woke up one morning with no 1-800 Key Life number. I called AT&T, and they said, well, in a year you can, I said, a year? I've got to have it back today. And he said, I'm sorry, sir, it's policy, that won't happen. He said, we'll give you another number. I said, I don't want another number. I want the other number that we paid you for. And he said, it's policy, and I'm sorry. Reapply, and we'll see what we can do for you. So I called John Longino, and I said, John, this guy's an idiot, and I can't say that to him because I'm ordained. And I would hurt the name of Jesus by doing this. And he said, give me a little bit of time. And literally in a half hour, he called up and he said, you got your number back? I said, wow, what did you do? He said, I called up the chief attorney of AT&T. Took me a while to find his name, but I found it. And I told him, I don't believe I'm even talking to you, but I work for these crazy Christians in Miami, and they've said before I can sue you, I've got to talk to you. I have now talked to you. Now I'm going to make a lot of money out of you. Goodbye. And the guy said, wait, we can talk. That really happened. And he gave us back our number. And John said to me then, and I could tell you a bunch more stories. He said, Brown, I love for you to get into trouble. Because we get to spend time together. You think God says that to us too sometimes? Maybe that's the reason we're in trouble, because God gets to spend time with us. So when you're not faithful and you're not pulling it off and you don't know how to do it and you think it can't be done, run to Jesus and he'll say, good, I love spending time with you. And then there's one other thing, and we're free. Don't try to fix a cold shower if you don't know how to do it, or yourself if you don't know how to do it. In both cases, find somebody who does and ask them to do it for you. And that's what Jesus does in our lives daily. And then finally, don't forget to thank him. My new plumber friend got the biggest tip he's ever gotten in his whole career of plumbing. I was so grateful to him, I can't tell you. And if I was grateful to him for a hot shower, how much more should I be grateful to God because he's making me like Jesus? Anne Lamott is an acquaintance of mine. We've interviewed her 2 or 3 times. I don't know if you know anything about her, but she's a prize-winning novelist, and she's a very upfront Christian. And she cusses like a sailor, and her politics are horrid. And the first time I called her, she was irritated that I called her. We had set up the interview, and she said, I have a speech to give in a few minutes. Could we make this fast? And I said, yes, we can do that. But let me say something before we start. You know those Bible thumpers? And she said, yes, I do. The ones who talk about Jesus all the time, she said, I do. And I said, I'm one of them. And I just want you to know that I think you are wonderful. And I've sold more of your books than you have sold. And all of a sudden, she kind of got nice. And we ended up talking for an hour and a half. And you know what she said at the end of that interview? She said, Steve, do you know what would happen if we ever met? And I said, no, Ann, what would happen? She said, we would hold hands and tell each other stories of Jesus. One of the great things that she said, she says, I primarily only have 3 prayers. Number 1, God, help me right now. Number 2, wow. Number 3, thank you so much. That's a good policy. Help me. I want to be faithful. I don't want to run. I want to sense the joy that you have promised by my being faithful. And then, wow, you are an awesome God. And then, thank you so much. You think about that. Amen.